Menachem. Salasnik.
Pleasure to be here.
You're back. I'm back. We're back.
We're back.
It's been a while. We won't tell the viewers why. Secret missions. We'll keep them all guessing. You know, what you see before you is not the real thing. This is a guise. No, it's not. It's just I was busy and whatever. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
Good.
Enjoying the rains in Israel. It takes me a few minutes every morning just to get out of my British brain, my British upbringing of hating wetness.
Or having it all the time.
And tap into my kids. My kids, when it rains, they're dancing in the street because they have grown up knowing that this is a blessing. So it's like a switch in the brain.
It is amazing, especially this year with the whole, I don't know how much you did, I added 𝘣𝗓𝗄, and then it rained. And it was so much, so heavy. That wasn't British rain. No,
it's true. In England, it just dribbles.
Right.
I spent 3 years in Manchester as well. And I did enjoy the Jewish community there, but the weather is just nice, you know.
The thing about England is most of the time when you look up, it's grey.
That's right.
And here, most of the time you look up, it's blue. So there you go. Okay, we're back. Shabbat Yitro.
That's right. And I mean, listen, it's got the 𝘱𝘦𝘰𝘵, the badly translated 10 commandments, 10 statements. But before then, it's named after Moshe's father-in-law, Yitro, a fascinating character, somebody who tried everything.
Right.
The Midrash tells us that he sampled every single available religion, idol that was available at that time.
Amazing. Searcher.
Went through it, exactly.
We love that.
Somebody who's looking for truth.
Real person.
Looking for truth. And goes from one to the other until he finally comes across Judaism and he realizes that this is the truth, this is the one. And we see that he converts. His daughter marries the leader of the Jewish people. And he comes and joins the Jewish people after they've already had their beginning of their journey. They left Egypt. They've crossed the sea. The Amalekites have been defeated. And he joins them at that point, and the verse describes how he's happy to join the Jewish people, how he himself sees that Moshe is trying to answer these questions of the whole populace, probably about 3 million people, question after question, sitting all day answering questions. He realizes that this is not
You're going to get knackered, mate.
Yeah, this isn't going to last long.
Right.
And he creates a structure, and we've got this person. So the first thing to realize here is that we're a very insular group, us Jews, but the Torah is telling us straight out that anybody who wants to join, they don't just join on the lowest rung. They are, a fully fledged, integrated person who can actually have a whole section of the Torah written just about their advice.
It's
and
true.
How he changed the way the world worked.
He entered, and we, as Jews, we recognize, like, yeah, of course he's got a right to speak up.
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
So I wanted to share this particular aspect because if we have a look at this verse, if we come to the beginning, the verse tells us, if I get to the beginning, it says that Vayichad Yitro, or Vayichad Yisro, al kol ha-tova asher asa Hashem Yisrael, asher hitzila miyad Mitzrayim. And the way that is translated is, Yisro was happy, he was overjoyed, he was joyous about all the goodness that God had done for the Jewish people, that he had saved them from Egypt. But what's interesting is that the word for overjoyed, or he was joyous or happy, is not the usual word of samach or vayismach, or it uses a completely different word, vayichad. And therefore our sages learn a deeper understanding of what's going on. The word chad means sharp or pointing. And they basically say that Yisro is hearing all of these things that have happened to the Jewish people, and he is overjoyed, But there's another section to him, something that is sort of bothering his mind, because he's hearing about all of these people who've been defeated. The Egyptians who've lost their lives. And we know, according to the Medrash, he was an advisor for Pharaoh. He was one of the people who stood up for the Jewish people, but he was still an advisor, a very prominent advisor for Pharaoh. He presumably had friends among the Egyptians.
Right.
And he's hearing all of this news. And yes, he is overjoyed and he is part of the Jewish people. He's converted, but there's still something not quite right. And therefore, the sages say that this word of sort of points or sharp refers to what we would call goosebumps. Like his hair sort of stood on end, like sharp. His skin felt a little bit, chilled. He was chilled by the information.
What amazing insight.
Right.
Just to infer that from that word. That's incredible.
So
what do you see in all that?
So what they're describing essentially is, here's a person who's left it.
Right.
But it's still a part of him. His past is still a part of him. And he gets a little bit of chills. He feels a little bit uncomfortable hearing about the downfall of his old friends. And what we get from this is that we have to be extremely careful about different people and their paths in life. We have to be very sensitive to how people may still be holding on to some of their old perceptions, their old ways, old friends.
Yeah, can't just sever it. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
I mean, you can, but it's not nice.
It's also unhealthy when I see people who have either become more religious or become Jewish, and they completely. I know that there are some rabbis who have advocated a complete severance.
Correct.
But I actually don't think it's healthy. I don't think that's the way religion is going to last in a person's life when they make that journey. If you cut off everything and you can't understand that is part of your life, at some point you'll go back to it. It's
also
too much.
And I can speak from personal experience, you've got family who didn't come with you.
Right.
That's massive. Well, I've read, I'm not going to name the rabbis that said it, best you stay away. Now, I do agree there has to be a healthy distance because they don't see the world, and it creates, depending on what family you're in, it can create tremendous tensions. And at the end of the day, you've made a new pathway. But severing, red card basically, goodbye, you're off, thanks for everything, and I'm off. That doesn't look godly.
Well, I don't think it's healthy. I don't think
even for the person,
for the person themselves. Yeah. And I think also part of being a good religious Jew is having hakarat tov, having gratitude, and gratitude includes everything from the diapers that they changed when you were growing up, through your schooling, through your upbringing, everything that, and more than that, people seem to think that they made this journey by themselves.
Right.
But the reality is that most people who do make the journey over to truth, the reason they do that is because their parents instilled in them values that are very, very important to them. They then went around the world looking for where they can find those values, and they didn't find it in the world. They found it in Judaism.
That's very true. I agree. And grandparents,
parents,
whoever
exactly. And to sort of lose that. And what happened to your mitzvah of honoring your parents? What happened to the mitzvah of showing gratitude to people? I think it's a very, very important point.
It is important.
But the thing that the sages are taking from this is that when we're speaking to people who've been on a journey, we have to be extremely sensitive with our language. And we come onto the concept of onat dvarim, which means being cruel with our words. And although we translate that as being cruel, the way they discuss it or the examples they give are very, very subtle. Right? You're not allowed to remind a convert about his life before. You're not supposed to go up to somebody who's become religious and say, oh, I remember when you used to do X, Y, and Z. You're not allowed to do that. Why? Because that may create some sensitivities to them.
Suffer a bit of pain. Because you see things differently now. And so therefore a reminder of those things. I think it can be relative because, again, I have to speak from personal experience. I'm forgiving of friends that I used to know who bring it up.
Right.
How could they not?
Because it's it was part of that your life together.
Yeah, like I have a friend that calls me, KD, Kosher Dave, and then NKD. Right. But it's part of the friendship, and I love him for it. It's not. I'm not offended.
It's because you realise that him saying those words to you is just an expression of his closeness to you.
Yeah, 100%.
But when that isn't clear, and it feels like a little bit of a judging.
If it's a dig, a dig, remember when? Oh, you haven't really chatted, and that's a whole different story.
Right. But let's take it just this stage further. What we're talking about here is not just about being sensitive, but it's also understanding that a person may have made that journey, but they may themselves not necessarily have let go of certain links and connections. And I really feel for us right now, if we were to look across the Jewish population of Israel, I think the vast majority of them are happy with the change of God in America. Okay, I would guess the vast majority. I'm not sure if that's true about Jews in America, but definitely Jews in Israel and the way it's
for sure.
But we have to be aware that there are people who are devastated by things that are going on. We have to understand that people may be fully on board with us in every other area, but perhaps they're actually really, really upset about certain changes that are being made. And we have to be sensitive to that. When we walk around sort of, and do you know what? The most painful thing which I see is the I told you so. The sort of in your face on social media. I have to say, you see, I told you.
Right.
I told you.
One-upmanship and all that stuff.
Why? Understand that the people who are carrying sensitivities, I know somebody who was devastated. What are we talking about? 12 years ago? Was that the first time he got in?
2016, yeah.
The first election? 8 years ago. 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
When he devastated, cried all night. Any mention of him, mainly because this particular person was carrying a certain amount of I should be careful how I say it, but certain things that he was accused of, that he's been accused of, would be applicable to this person, and therefore that's very, very difficult because of the trauma to get past. And actually this time this person has swung a little bit more in this direction and understands, especially from an Israel perspective, how this is important. But still, there's still that sensitivity there. You have to be aware people are allowed, people will and are allowed to hold their past together with their present. And we have to respect that and have a feeling for it and be careful the way we speak. Be careful about shoving our opinions in other people's faces and all that I told you so and how can you possibly hold that position? No, just be open and understand that people will have different views to you. That's okay. That's all right.
The ideal is always hard to read. If everyone could be super calm, super like, oh, I disagree, but I'm like, I hear you. Like, what a perfect world we would live in. I mean, it's unrealistic. I hope that the hope is that one day we'll have a world. We don't know what that world looks like when everyone recognizes Hashem. I don't know what that's going to do to people, because at the end of the day, all this negativity that exists between people is because they're so desperate often to be right and to be safe and secure. Mm-hmm. Like, my world is okay. You oppose it. You disagree. You're scary to me, and that's the root, I think, of all these different ailments that go on in the world. We can't just be chilled and just disagree. At the same time, yeah, I agree with you, but I don't know, what do you do about people that are just, and I say this carefully, what about people that are just wrong? Or is there no wrong? Again, it's ironic that I'm saying that.
When it comes to solutions to issues, I'm not sure that there is a right or wrong. We can listen to different ideas, and some we can say are more dangerous, and some are perhaps better. If we're talking about values and morals, well, the Torah tells us what is right and wrong. Yeah. But again, people can have their views. One of the difficulties that we see all the time is on YouTube, on these different characters are going out there. They're all looking for their gotcha moment, right? And the headings is liberal is liberal is embarrassed or crushed by this.
Right. Yeah.
That is like, you're not going to change that person's view if you're crushing them, right? All you're doing is playing to your fan base.
It's divisive. It's extremely divisive.
What we can do is we can sit down and we can have a discussion and we can say, okay, I think this is how the discussion should be. I understand that you support this particular party or this particular person or this particular position, okay? Give me three things that you think should be done differently to the party you support. And then I'll give you three things that I think should be done differently to the party that I support. Because we need to have that meeting, and no party is going to be perfect. So let's at least come from the agreement that neither side is perfect, and then we can sort of meet in the middle. And I think that is at least a step towards the solution.